Welcome and hello, hello and welcome, welcome and hello, hello and welcome, welcome and hello. Thank you for joining me on an extremely special edition, a hump day edition of Un Poco Mas, the show where we give you just a little bit more. Guys, we want to do a little Roy 101 so we don't get Munson out in the middle of nowhere. Sort of want to. Here's the thing, guys, it's easy to say, okay, this is a great company. Google's a great company. Nvidia is a great company. I'll just, buy the shares and I'll wait a long time and I'll be wealthy. Maybe I have a great job. Maybe I'm an engineer or a surgeon. Maybe I have several advanced degrees. Well, guess what? I don't. I'm a salesman. I'm a flim flam man. I'm a seller of bullshit. A dream maker, a rainmaker, a kingmaker, whatever you want me to be, guys. I'm a chameleon. If you're a client and you're willing to pay me a big enough fee, I'm gonna, make all your dreams come true. Sort of, short of doing like really crazy stuff. I'm not a drug mule or anything. But the point is, I don't have any type of skills or training that's going to get me, the huge salary of a brain surgeon. So I've always had to hustle. And the only way I could join the upper class was, through the stock market and through real estate, because like I said, I just wasn't smart enough to, have some great career. I didn't have the looks, I obviously wasn't going to be a male model. So anyway, guys, what I look for are patterns, disconnections, scams, essentially that market makers are running, that I can essentially take advantage of, that will provide me with a shortcut to make a lot of money in a very short amount of time. Um, Guys, if you look at this chart, to me, this does not take a genius to sort of decode that, this 40, 41, 42 is a critical pivot. And given the ER, I mean, I think and I know people might say I'm crazy because what we already knew about was the 5 billion. All right. We knew about that and they had already gotten hit for that. And I told you, everybody said, should I buy now? After that, I said, no. Everyone. And if you go back, read the comments, I'm not making it up now. I said, do not buy. Wait for the ER. It's going to fall more. It doesn't matter that guidance will be great. It doesn't matter that, they already guided for the 5 billion instead of the 5.8. It's going to get hit hard. And lo and behold, got hit really hard, but I'm telling you, this just fell to a prefixed point. Look at how many times it's fallen to this point. When it fell last time, it came almost down here. It consolidated here. Like, guys, before the Hindenburg thing, back here at the end of last October, where the stock came from 50 and basically fell to 28, and then eventually made its way down to 17. If you look back here at the chart, it was at 61 back in August of 2024. And then the stock fell all the way down to like 39 and then tested, 39 again, and then came back up and tested this area again. So right at this particular time, for these couple of weeks and months, or I guess it's just like a month, this was sort of more or less acting as support. And then you saw what happened with the short report. It fell back down. Of course, it recovered to 47, but came back down. So this line was more or less acting as resistance. You see this shoulder and this shoulder, how it's being held under this line. Yeah, I mean, pump and dump aside, we know what that was. Hopefully you timed that properly and took advantage. But then you see again, pushed back down under the line. And it's only right here in May that the stock actually pushes up and breaks through this line convincingly. And then it retests over and over and over, guys. Do you see all these retests? I mean, I know it's not exactly on the line, but willing suspension of disbelief. If you're going to draw charts out for 2 years and have a critical pivot, it's not going to be 100%. It's not going to be like a razor sharp edge, It's all bullshit anyway. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Anybody want to buy a used car? You know what I mean? Oh, I got a Yugo for sale. It's 3 cylinders of driving excitement. You're as fat as me, that car won't even move. 0 to 60, never. 0 to 50, possibly, if I haven't had a big meal. But you see the stock recovering just a bit after hours, came down to 42. I hadn't even looked at this, guys. I just had a bunch of people, saying, throw on a video, want to hear a little SMCI. Are you buying? Are you selling? Are you dumping? Are you crying? Are you in a fetal position in the corner? No, I feel great about this company. I feel great about the stock. If you don't understand that there's product cycles, and everyone who's arguing that, and look what happens, guys. Look where it finds support, right on this line again. So my point is, up until this point, think of this as like a teeter-totter, guys. Think of this as a teeter-totter, okay? Or not a teeter-totter. I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say. A pivot, a fulcrum, a lever, a winch, a pivot. I don't know what the fuck it is. It's a line. And to the left of right here, everything is trending below it. Now, I know, again, not an exact science. And then to the right, everything is trending above it. So to the left, this was generally resistance. To the right, this is generally support. And what happens? It caught the falling knife again, and it bounced back. So we have to see. I personally think it's going to hold up here in the low 40s, and it's going to consolidate here. And when next quarter, when they're calling for 7 billion and they actually sell 10 billion, the stock's going to go double uranium, and there's still a very significant short on the stock. It's a lot less than it was, but it's about 16% of the free float. In my mind, what you've created, see this huge gap here? This is not dissimilar. This is very, very similar. You have sort of this big move up, tops, starts to curl over, and then falls off this proverbial cliff. What happens? Comes down, tests this exact area, works its way all the way back up, fills this entire gap, boom, curls over. Algo bear flag, I guess you could say. I don't know, flag football, little grabby pants below the waist action. You ever been playing flag football if somebody actually accidentally grab your one good testicle? Oh, it can be traumatizing, believe me. Particularly if it's not even somebody playing, it's just a random stranger, perhaps custodian. But anyway, that aside, what a terrible bit. I don't know how could you confuse a fat kid's testicle for a flag? You can't even find a fat kid's testicle. You get so much thigh friction going on in there with my little short fat legs trying to get up and down the field. You don't want to try to check me in space. There's no chance I'm going to be in space. There's no chance I'm going to operate in space. Like, they put me as like center and nose guard just so I wouldn't have to run as much. I just basically step over the ball and you ready? Just the only problem was like kickoffs. Flag football. Give me a break. So anyway, I don't know what I was talking about with this show, but I just feel another setup. Market makers have stocks that they toy with and that they use because there's a lot of retail interest. There's a lot of volatility. There's a lot of news. There's a lot of intrigue. It's in a hot sector, much the same way SoFi with fintech. SMCI is a very interesting AI play. So you have all that going on. But as long as it finds support here, it's a one-way street up because you cannot guide for 36 billion at the midpoint and give a strong hint that that's going to be low. I mean, they're talking, they could sell 11 billion this quarter, and they already know what's coming in this quarter. It's a revenue recognition issue. Like I said, I think BDO is there holding a gun to their head saying, we are not signing any more garbage. This has to be accurate down to the penny and then some. And if there's going to be any errors, it's going to be errors on the side of caution. You 2-bit hucksters. Wiggy, I'm talking to you, not mentioning any names. Wiggy. See, I think all the stars are aligning that they're gonna, like, they knew this was gonna be bad, so they'll depress the stock, whatever. They don't care. These guys are rich as hell. They cut down endangered trees and plant vineyards to drink fine wines. Aunt Sarah's off betting on horses that she probably owns. So anyway, I don't really know what I was talking about, but my point is, just all nonsense aside, when the next ER drops and it's a home run, and I know EPS isn't going to be through the roof, but there's still going to be a mix in this next quarter of old stuff, old projects, new projects. It's going to take a couple quarters till you get purely into, Mr. Blackswell's whatever. So there's still old stuff going. This stuff is not clean. It's like, again, it's not a razor's edge. Everything is a mix. And they've gone from fast and loose accounting to hopefully, reasonably accurate accounting. Or at least slightly less, corrupt. Yeah, we used to be like 100% corrupt, and now we're 98% corrupt. Excellent. Let's keep Wiggy on for another year. Oh, anyway, guys, just growing pains. Yeah. Guys, this screams opportunity. This stock from these levels, and I know you can just call me a big fat idiot pumper, and fine. If the shoe fits, I'm going to wear that puppy, and I'm going to get it in a couple of colors, and I don't care, because I am a big fat stupid pumper. But I am a big fat stupid pumper who's going to make a lot of money this year. I made a lot of money last year. I'll make a lot of money next year, because I just don't fall for the psychological traps. This big gap down, it would scare the hell out of some people. It just makes me salivate. Like, I know what these guys are doing. And I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you with data and cold Vulcan logic. Yes, I'm a pumper, an unapologetic pumper. I'm bullish. I'm bullish on this audience. I'm bullish on my broke tiny wing audience. I believe in you guys. Let's talk shorts. Not a, that's not a comment on you guys' wing. It's just, a coincidence. But anyway, guys, so short interest down to 16.25%. This was, 20% just a couple of months ago. So they really got out of the way, and they're not going to reshort from here because they're going to run the stock up. So there still can be plenty of pressure, but shares on loan plummeting right in sync with the short interest, which is a little bit neutral in terms of whether they're going to attack or whether they're going to fall back. Jump back, butt crack. We got this covered. We got the wiggy here, cooking the books. But I think not only is the next quarter going to be an absolute grand slam home run, but also they're going to introduce the new CFO. And it's going to be somebody with a name. Because I think they're already talking to people, and I think they're going to drop a bomb. I think it might be like a big name from a big company. Who knows? Somebody from, somebody with relevant experience in this area, somebody from Intel, somebody from AMD, who knows? Somebody with an accounting background, hopefully. Somebody who's good with numbers. Somebody who knows his way around a TI-85 graphing calculator, if you know what I mean. I was hopeless trying to use that TI-85. Those big fat fingers. Still do. So anyway, significant short on the stock, but less significant than it used to be. We'll have to kind of see how that shakes out. I don't know why they're not letting me log in. This stupid freaking thing. Let me see if I can log in here, guys. I keep kicking me out. Let's see. See if it wants to let me in. Let me in now. All right, let's see. All right, there we go. Shift 6. What the fuck? I'm not any technical expert, if that wasn't completely obvious. So yeah, I was trying to look at SMCI. What do you guys think of the Supreme Court deal? It sounds like they were saying the Supreme Court was grilling the president's attorneys, and overall they thought it, never a clear indication, but I think they do try to telegraph to a certain extent, what they're thinking. So it sounded like they were fairly hostile to the, president's sort of emergency tariff powers, and that they were basically, saying this is a tax on the American people, and taxes are supposed to be, the sole, territory of Congress. So it's like, in a real sense, constitutionally, it's pretty cut and dry that, the president shouldn't be unilaterally levying these tariffs. But the Supreme Court has been very deferential to the unitary executive, and even sort of way beyond that, kind of the planetary executive, or all powerful executives, sort of, there's been ceding more and more power. The problem, the courts are not ceding their own power, generally speaking. They're ceding the power of the legislative branch, which I think is very, very dangerous. You might say, well, what's the difference? The legislature is in lockstep with the president at this time, so it shouldn't, perhaps they'd pass it. I don't believe a conservative Congress, no matter how conservative, would pass these tariffs. I don't think anybody in their right mind would conduct, trade or foreign policy this way. But you might, it might work in the end. This is like madman theory, and you hold a loaded gun to somebody's head, they're probably going to sign the contract. Never gets that part. I want to go to The Godfather, but a lot of people were saying in comments like, well, if they voted, if they rule against the Trump administration, it's going to be horrible for the market. Now, I'm not sure about that. Like, I don't think the market ever liked these tariffs. I don't think the market likes the uncertainty. I think it would much rather, if they want to do tariffs, you do the normal, negotiation rounds, and you kind of go through these one by one, just kind of, this really kind of slowed down the whole world economy, hit the markets every time they kind of go back and forth with these tariffs. You still have quite a bit of detail to be worked out, because all these details are not, even when they say, okay, we have a deal, in terms of a comprehensive trade negotiation, once you say, hey, we have a deal in principle, it's usually several years and 5 rounds of negotiations later, on the consular level. Oh, excuse me. Got to work out about 75 million details we do, Governor. The ink's not even dry yet. We've got problems. Because it's not like, we just put tariffs, like different goods. There's like tons of exemptions. There's tons of things that kick in over time. A lot of things are graduated where it's like certain quantities are allowed. And then over that, it's just these things. And then there's all these like shadow tariffs and these, sort of unofficial trade barriers that China is so good at using and other countries are so good at using. So no matter what you negotiate, you have to know that's not what you're going to get. So I don't know, maybe the technique is working, maybe it isn't. I think it's far too early to tell, but I just think all I know is the market hates uncertainty. It hates like sort of these rash, one day this, one day that. The market wants to know, where is policy going so we can plan accordingly with our strategy and our forecasting and all these other things. So if you don't know what the hell's going to happen, it's really very difficult to run a business, because you have to line up financing, you have to line up, debt, you have to line up supply chain, you have to line up inventory, which, is kind of supply chain, but maybe not, it depends. There's all sorts of ways things work now. And then that, completely affects your bottom line. So, don't really know what the hell I'm talking about. Just kind of a ramble, know what I mean? Anyway, so just to, price target at 43 at Barclays. And you see they kind of chase the some of these analysts like that tend to run a little bearish, a little brown in the old nose region, a little short in the weighing, if you know what I mean. So take a look at this, guys. Here's the institutional ownership for SMCI. You notice anything? It doesn't change through all these like last 8 months. All the ups and downs. Now look at that, and then look at this chart. Like those are the same months, like, right from, I guess here or whatever. February. These are the same months. Look at all this volatility. You have these 3 huge moves, this giant drop down to 27. Institutions just yawn, and they just keep holding the stock. I mean, if anything, it's been increasing the last 3 months. And then look at the fund sentiment score at 87. I mean, SoFi is only 93, and that's been one of the most popular stocks. I know this is sort of a delayed fuse, but they knew this quarter was going to be. I've been telling you ever since I've been talking about this stock that this quarter is going to be weak. It takes time. But there's going to be a gravy train from this Blackswell's thing and this, building block solution and this federal government contracting thing they're doing. SMCI is really about the future. And I think they're going to win the future. I think they're going to get more and more of these huge customers. And yes, the margins probably aren't going to be, 18, 20% again. But if you grow your company from 3 billion in sales to 36 billion in sales in, 6 years, you 10x your sales in 6 years or whatever. I'm just giving an example. Even if your margins fall a bit, you're still in aggregate going to be making much more money, per share. And so, okay, everybody's freaking out. They're guiding for what, 50 to 54 or 51 to 57 or whatever. An analyst wanted 61 next quarter. Okay, I understand. Margins are critical, but you have to give it a few quarters to get the mix into mostly the new generation of processors before you're going to, see the rebound in the margins. It's not this. It's obviously not this. People are criticizing this quarter at 9%. I mean, this quarter is a dog. Everything was garbage this quarter. They couldn't recognize any margin-rich revenue this quarter because their customers kept making changes and they had to redo stuff. And, but those are probably making those projects more expensive. So at the end of the day, when they do recognize those revenues, it's going to be more. That's why they're, guiding for 36 billion. Just do the math. I mean, you're over 10 billion a quarter minimum. And they're talking about that could be low. I mean, it might be that the 40 billion figure that they threw out a long time ago actually wasn't insane, and that customers actually, are still relying on SMCI perhaps more than ever. And the wavering and the hand wringing and the, all this with the market in terms of the accounting, their customers just don't care because they deliver on the technical side on time, on budget, less cost, more density, less energy, everything they want. And like, honestly, they don't care if the SEC, investigated and fined them 5 years ago. And some crooked short seller wants to rehash old court documents and, gin it all up into this, new controversy, which it wasn't. Which it never was. Where are all these revisions? Where are all these write-downs? Not one penny was revised. None of it was true. I mean, even if there was some truth to it, it was just the fact that it was so peripheral, so minor, such a drop in the bucket. It's just all FUD. Think about, you drop the stock from 50 down to 17. Think about how much money those shorts made on the back of the working man. Put the boxes down. Put them down. Danny DeVito, Hoffa. Danny DeVito, highly underrated actor, producer, director, whatever. Anyway, what's going on, Alfredino Traxful? I was bullish on NBISI run, but Kramer backed them. I know that bald asshole. He's doing everything for the charitable trust, so you gotta love him. But he's talking about how I didn't have any problem, recommending SoFi when it was 5. What a revisionist history. If anything, he was barely lukewarm. He barely had a semi. That little bald turd. I mean, bald guy is not a lurker. One bald guy is enough in this channel. No, I love bald people. You're wise. You got a lot of testosterone. You're manly men. You have black wedding rings and AK-47s, tiny wings and big dreams, high hopes and small testicles. Sorry. I always get a little bit nauseous when I think about your tiny wings, but I want to unalive myself. Don't do that. Don't do that, Rim Shaker. You got too much to live for. You got a base demo tape in the car, and you're building the box out of particle board that'll hold 415s. Pumping 25,000 watts through 4 15-inch subwoofers. A couple of weeks, your entire car is going to fall apart, and you're going to be the envy of the neighborhood. So, no, guys, I know it seems like a couple quarters, even since this stock fell off a cliff. It's only been a year. I mean, it's nothing. Stop being so greedy. Stop being so impatient. I'm telling you, stocks go up and down. Stock went 17, 70, 25, 50, 40, 60, back to 40. None of that matters if ultimately the stock's going to 120, 150. If they're able to sell close to 40 billion this year, even if the margins aren't ideal, stock goes up. Stock goes up. Who are our top shareholders here? It's our favorites, guys. Vanguard increased their share. They haven't filed yet, I guess. But BlackRock, Vanguard increased 3%. BlackRock decreased 2% at the last filing. Morgan Fudley increased 10%. Invesco increased 30%. D. Shaw increased 30%. D. Shaw again, or that's the put. Increased the call a lot more than the put. So they're straddling this thing. They're teabagging it. Northern Trust, Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo increased their last filing 32%. So I don't know what's bearish here. The market is supposed to be forward looking. They already told us the 5 billion. They already, it's like if you're going to be intimate with a woman, you got to give her a heads up. Hey, I'm working with a small package, if you know what I mean. If you go into the post office, you get in priority mail, it's going to be the small box, if you know what I'm talking about. Make that the small envelope. You pre-warn them. So the reaction on earnings day is not so violent. So when she finally sees the wing, she doesn't laugh. She's like, yep. You were accurate. You were accurate, all right. Were you using the metric system? Or? Because that's not 7. Anyway, guys, that's neither here nor there. Your tiny wang doesn't really have that much to do with the analysis of this stock, but it's humorous. It's just a bit of levity. Hold on here, guys. I gotta close out of my email because I was having some issues. I don't know. I got kicked out of all my super premium fun stuff here. Let me jump back butt crack into this screen. So James Ford, like super microcomputer, ugly quarter, beautiful future. I looked at some of these. It's all over the map. Uttam Day, super microcomputer Q1 results, record-setting margin. That's what I was talking about. If you go by the margins this quarter, it's 5 billion of mostly old crap. It's the very end of the, old product cycle. It's closing up all these books. It was going to be an ugly quarter. We knew it. Julia Ostian, super micro, the company I'll never trust, rating upgrade. And then the techie, one messy quarter doesn't scare me. Super microcomputer is a strong buy. And then another sell, super microcomputer, driving sales at the expense of margins. How do you know that yet, Heinrich Alex? How do you know that, Heinrich Alex? Your haircut says you're a stern man, stern but fair, much like the Russian secret police when dealing with Chris Pontius in his party boy persona. The Russian FSB is stern but fair. Oh, anyway, you guys can read these on your own. I mean, I'm not going to go through all these articles. I'm in the process of going through them, but I just haven't had time to prep for this. So Supermicro outlines 36 billion revenue target 2026, met AI demand surge, building block expansion, Charles Lang, and this just gives you kind of the bullet points. Early phases of dynamic AI growth trend, position Supermicro, innovative, high quality, NVIDIA Blackwell Ultra with GB300 product line now have more than 13 billion in back orders, including the largest deal in our 32-year history. And they did that mega deal, I think, with Tesla, which was like 10 billion or something. So largest deal with the history is upcoming, and probably multiple largest deals in their history, because these data centers are getting absolutely huge. They're doing like mega data centers, farms. Far as the eye can see, we're growing servers, organic servers, no pesticides, just a bunch of poop. Lang reported a revenue shift of approximately $1.5 billion from the September quarter to the December quarter, explaining the complexity of these new GPU racks, which requires intricate integration, testing, and validation, making them more time-consuming to source and build. He emphasized that production ramp-up has strengthened and the growth trajectory amid supported higher full-year outlook. The company is preparing for NVIDIA, Vera, Rubin, and AMD Helios launches in 2026, expanding its product portfolio, while data center building block solution is becoming a critical part of our business strategy, driving future growth and profitability. And a lot of people speculated, because those are sort of prepackaged solutions, they're going to have better margins. I'm not positive, but it sounds logical to me. Lang announced aggressive global expansion, including new facilities in the US, Taiwan, the Netherlands, Malaysia, and soon Middle East, aiming to scale production to 6,000 racks per month, including 3,000 DLC racks within this fiscal year. Ooh, I love DLC racks because they are so saucy and spicy. Wait, no, I honestly don't know what that is. Direct liquid cooling, I guess, or some shit. We expect to ship at least 10.5 billion in the December quarter. We anticipate a sequential growth throughout fiscal 2026, giving us confidence in achieving at least 36 billion. So if they're going to sell 10.5 and they're going to grow sequentially, they're going to do more than that. So David Wiglin, the Wigger, Senior VP, CFO, Company Secretary. Oh my God. It's hard when you actually read it. This guy who's, they say is the whole problem, investigator. I think this guy, David Wiglin, might actually be brilliant. I don't know. He's the Senior VP, CFO, Company Secretary, and Chief Compliance Officer. He has those 4 roles, and this is the guy everybody thinks is the problem. Maybe he's actually the solution. Q1 fiscal year 2026 revenue was $5 billion, down 15% year over year, 13% quarter over quarter compared to our guidance of $6-7 billion. AI GPU platforms, which represented over 75% of Q1 revenues, continue to be the key growth driver. Management expects net sales range of $10 billion to $11 billion. GAAP diluted net income per share is projected to be 30. Now, this was what a lot of people were worried about: 37 to 45, and then 46 to 54 on a non-GAAP basis. So I think analysts were looking for more like 61. Gross margin is expected to be down 300 basis points relative to Q1 fiscal year 2026 levels. So margins are going to be down again next quarter. So that's not good. I probably should have read this in advance if I wanted to just pump this stuff. Hey, I am actually here to tell you the truth, guys. I am a hopeless pumper and romantic, but I'm a lover, not a fighter. Lover, not a fighter. What can I tell you? Everybody love everybody. Everybody love everybody. Found myself watching Semi-Pro last night. Highly underrated movie. Love Me Sexy. Great song. Jackie Moon. Certainly did not sleep with Mrs. Pepper. Don't call me a jive turkey. For the full fiscal year, the outlook's been raised. Net sales $36 billion versus prior guidance of at least $33 billion. So that's pretty significant. It's a 10% top line guidance raise. It's very significant. Enterprise channel revenues, blah, blah, blah. GAAP, non-GAAP gross margin 9.5, and non-GAAP operating margin was basically dog shit. Q1 GAAP diluted, and next year is going to be even worse. Our next quarter is going to be worse dog shit. GAAP diluted EPS 26 cents, non-GAAP 35. Cash flow used in operations was $918 billion. Negative free cash flow was $950 billion for the quarter. Good. So they're burning money nice and fast. That's great. At quarter end, cash position was $4.2 billion with bank and convertible note debt of $4.8 billion, resulting in a net debt position. It's not too bad at all, especially for a company growing this fast. Q1 cash conversion cycle 123 days with inventory days 105. Days sales outstanding 43. JP Morgan or NVIDIA Blackwell. I'm not going to go through the Q&A. Sentiment analysis, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at sort of what the analysts are thinking. The last one to come in was an upgrade, a buy at KGI. I don't really know KGI, old Rob Chang, certified financial analyst. He has 2 ratings total in his whole life. So he was seemingly born yesterday. We got the great Ruplu Bhattacharya with Bank of America, lowered the price target at 3. But the price targets aren't falling off a cliff. Goldman Sachs actually raised their price target 30 to 34, but reiterated a sell. We have Chip Motherwell. no relation to Chip Mothership, but he does. His head kind of looks like an alien. We got Neil Choksi with Northland. He's a super, super good analyst, this guy. We're really one of the best analysts out there. You should follow this guy. He's that smart. He lowered from 67 to 63, but reiterated buy, so that's still 50% upside from current levels. JP Morgan lowered $3. Kevin Cassidy, this guy's another outstanding analyst. Outstanding. Samik is too, but outstanding analyst. He raised from 50 to 55 and a buy. And then Quinn Bolton, another really good analyst with Needham, he lowered from 60 to 51 and a buy. So, still plenty of upside. Citi reiterated a hold at 48, and the Mighty Miz, Vijay Rakesh, Vijay Rakesh, your name is easy to pronounce. Just because it sounds foreign is no reason I should intentionally butcher it. That might be, I don't know, bad, racist, biased. I don't know. Not trying to be, but my mind is just stupid. So forgive me, guys. Forgive me, Vijay. Because I do respect you, man. You're a good analyst. So everybody's kind of saying, hey, it's kind of at the bottom here. I mean, some analysts are down in the 30s, but those are sort of the outliers. Mike Ying of Goldman, this guy who shits on SoFi every day, looks like doing an ad for Hanes. It's so the comfort soft neck doesn't stretch. You know what I mean? I shave this beard down to look like I don't care, but I do. You know what I mean? So if you look at IBD, even they have a score on Super Micro composite rating of 86. They're ranked third in the group. Logi is ranked, I don't know, is that Logitech? What the hell is that? First in the group. I can't be Logitech. I don't know, do they Logitech even exist? Just make like peripherals, mice and stuff. But anyway, this is surprisingly pretty high rankings. Their composite ranking and then EPS ranking is, of course, low. It's dog shit, but everything else is quite high. Relative strength rating, group relative strength, SMR, ascending, descending. So they got a lot going for them in terms of, Supermicro gives a mixed outlook. Stock is falling. I think they give quite a positive outlook. Now, there is going to be margin pressure again next quarter, but I'm telling you, over time, that will improve. They're not, rolling out building blocks and numbers yet. It's just starting. Let's see where these margins are in a couple of quarters. This isn't a get rich quick scheme. It's a get rich in a couple of years scheme. So anyway. Yeah, ET Val, you and me both. I really wish the Wigger would get replaced sooner than later. Shikhar Srivastaya 2645. Would this temporary margin drop happen every new product cycle when Ruben comes next year? Is temporary? I think it's temporary product margin cycles, but I think it's also increased competition is putting margin pressure on the whole sector. I mean, it used to be that just anyone who could get a data center up, they'd hire them because it was just, there's very limited options. Now with Dell and HP and other players, it's much more competitive in terms of price. So I think that's also putting margin pressure, which is more structural rather than cyclical. So Two Brothers 1399. They just moved the revenue to next quarter. Total year. Two Brothers. This is a layup. This is a great company. Charles is a great genius, innovator, visionary. He's pushing this entire industry forward. I don't see what people are so hung up here on I don't think the accounting was ever that bad. It was just fast and loose and messy and sloppy. It wasn't as dishonest and corrupt as people think. I don't think the Wigger has a Swiss bank account anywhere. I think he's just, was managing just incredible growth and they just weren't really ready for it. LOL. What's up? Let's Poco. What's up, Two Brothers? How you doing? Steve in the Mountains is here. Noto hits PSU milestone, reaches 90 trading days, stock at 25, according to Cal from Trading. That's interesting. Very interesting. I was not even aware that was a milestone, honestly, 90 days at 25. So awesome. That's a great tip. Thank you, Steve. I was bullish. We already talked to you, Mr. Rimshaker. Pinterest fucked me as Meta fucked me, getting big moves, all these undervalued plays. Mr. Rimshaker, I don't know what to tell you. I guess don't chase. When everybody's saying something is undervalued, it's not undervalued. When just a few people are saying it's undervalued, it might be undervalued. If everyone knows it's undervalued, it can't be undervalued. Don't you understand that? If everyone knows about something, it can't be undervalued because everyone has the information and the market has had a chance to digest that and come to an equilibrium, and therefore you have an accurate price. Because the market over time with a large enough sample always finds the accurate price where buyers and sellers meet. Now, when the information is brand new, when only a few people have it, when you're the first mover, when you're the first person to believe the story, that's where you find opportunity. That's why when there's huge dip, 99% of people are sellers. SMCI falls through the short report. You and I, we're way too smart for that. We're way too savvy and we're way too cynical to believe these short sellers rehashing some court transcripts from years ago. You got some tiny wang disgruntled ex-employee and you know, trot it out like it's the tablets coming down from on high. You got Moses over here. Give me a break. You got some disgruntled middle management suck up trying to get another payday. Anyway, guys, I don't know. That's really all I had for you on SMCI. I think it's a massive opportunity. We will continue to follow the stock and try to call the bottom. But for now, guidance is incredible, and the market is supposed to be forward-looking, so that should matter a hell of a lot more than 800 million less than revenue, which we already knew anyway. So thanks for watching, guys. It's Un Poco Mas. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you again real soon. Bye.